Very true. And this is where the relationship between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent is very
Yeah, it is.
important. If you have a proactive buyer's agent, they've already established a relationship with the seller's agent where they're asking proactively, what can we do to make this
Kind of
offer?
taking the mystery out of that,
That's
right?
right. Well, my sellers, they want to stay an additional 3 weeks. Okay, those are important.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. As always, it's great to see you. You know, we could not be trapped inside one more take.
Nope.
So we came out to Silver Lake Regional Park right outside of Haymarket for this week's video.
Yes. And this time of year is crazy. Ray and I were real estate agents who are on the street all the time. And there's a lot of excitement.
The agents on the street.
That's right. That's right. And we're observing a lot of multiple offer situations. And when we represent sellers in those situations, there's certain things that we always look for.
Yeah, you know, and our sellers really appreciate the fact when offers are presented to them, agents that are prepared, offers that are written properly, but there's like 6 points or so that we've really found it gets to their heart, gets to their soul, and makes them react positively.
Yes.
The first off is the sales price,
The
right?
biggie.
Yeah,
That's
so
the biggie.
this is probably not the time in the marketplace to kind of let's submit an offer and they'll come back with counter offers because we know we're the only person in the marketplace that's making an offer. That's not working anymore. We just heard one over the weekend that there were like 15 offers that came in on a property, and the agent had to come back to the group of offerees, the agents, and ask for a best and final offer on more than one occasion. So the best thing to do is look at the marketplace and understand that there's going to be probably a lot of competition out there right now.
Yes.
There's a lot of buyers out searching for these special properties. So make the best offer that you possibly can when you submit the first offer, and don't wait for those best and final, you know,
situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good
And
say.
that's what your agent will do for you, because more than likely, if you're in that situation, they will do a comparative market analysis of what's sold in the area
doubt.
recently.
It's essential.
So they'll be able to advise you. If you have a good agent, they'll be able to advise you about what the market is asking for, and then you could consider an escalation a little bit over that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, it's kind of better to wow them right up front with that offer price than it is to have them drag you screaming and hollering to try to come up to what you eventually thought you'd pay for the property anyway.
Yes, very true. The next one is financing. And what sellers are looking for are offers that will end up closed. And the big thing that always falls through and they're fearful of is financing. So they're going to look at what type the buyer is offering. So all cash offers, that's the biggie. If you can come in all cash, you're golden in terms of how secure you are in getting to the end line. Also, they have conventional, they have VA loans, FHA loans.
The type of loan is very important.
Correct. So you kind of have a tier as to which one is most preferable to a seller. So keep that in mind. The other part of that is your lender. A seller's agent, a good seller's agent, is going to be looking, who are you using as your lender? If you're using an online lender, it's problematic because sometimes you can't get through to them. You can't get that working relationship.
Work Monday through Thursday
from 9 to 3.
Maybe.
That's problematic for an agent trying to get the job done smoothly for everyone, right? And so it's always better to work with a local lender wherever you are, who is prompt, answers the phone, and gets information in very quickly.
Yeah, remember that pre-approval we've talked about before. Have that prepared with your offer. Right, probably the next that we look at, and we found that sellers like to see, is that earnest money deposit, right? And that is important from a psychological standpoint, but also as you get into a contract, you know, it can be sometimes the decision maker is people are looking, are they just kind of coming to the table with a small representation of their earnestness, or are they coming with a big, like overwhelming interest? Many times that is shown through the earnest money deposit. I've had certainly many buyers in the past that want to just kind of eke out the smallest deposit they can. Probably not the best strategy. You want to come in and show a strong, especially if you're making a cash offer. You're making a cash offer, make a significant earnest money deposit within that offer format. that's going to get the seller's attention. That's going to get the listing agent's attention.
Yes.
And all in all, that money just goes to your down payment anyway. So go ahead and make a striking offer.
Yes, yes. The next one is contingencies. And financing falls in that category. We talked about that already. But there's also the home inspection, and there's also the appraisal contingencies and others, of course, that you have to look at. But those are the two biggies that sellers are going to be looking at. Are you wanting that appraisal? In cash offers, you have a lot more leeway because you're not dependent on the lender approving your loan based on the appraisal value.
Having to follow their guidelines.
If you can throw that out and say no appraisal, that's really a really great incentive for the seller because they're not worried about losing cash in the process.
Yeah.
And the same thing for home inspections. If you know the type of neighborhood, if you know the home, you've done a pre-inspection, or sometimes sellers will do home inspections even before they go on the market, and they will sometimes share it with you, then even better, you can waive a home inspection.
Yeah, and if you do that inspection, that home inspection, I mean, we're big advocates for the home inspection from the buyer's standpoint. Make sure you communicate to the seller and the listing agent that we're not here looking for just all the nudgy type of items. There's going to be something major we'd like to know about it, but for the most part, we understand there's a lot of competition and that we're just doing it to make sure there's no catastrophe kind of waiting for us, and that we'll move on quickly if we find out that the house is in reasonable condition, right? Yes. Yeah, and then, the closing dates, the closing date. In today's market, we're still seeing that sellers are asking for kind of a time in the property, perhaps after settlement or delayed. Our suggestion is, as the purchaser, our sellers like to see who's willing to go to closing soonest, right? There may be the rent backs. We're still starting to see rent backs, or we're continuing to see rent backs in these offers. In the seller's, ideal scenario, they want to stay a little longer. In this marketplace with low inventory, yes, they may need to stay just a little longer in order to find a place to go. But I think from the offers, as we've seen the seller's eyes light up in these offers, try to go to settlement as quickly as you can and then make other arrangements after settlement. That way the seller can be guaranteed of that time that they can go on and start looking for another property.
Yes, very true. And this is where the relationship between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent is very important. Yeah, if you have a proactive buyer's agent, they've already established a relationship with the seller's agent where they're asking proactively, what can we do to make this offer?
Kind of taking the mystery out of that, right?
That's right. Well, my sellers, they want to stay an additional 3 weeks. Okay, those are important things to know.
And everybody's prepared.
That's right. Yeah, and having that relationship set up very early in the process also makes your offer stand out because you're remembered, and that goes a long way as well.
Yeah, true.
The last thing is closing costs, and that's another one. In a multiple offer situation, you don't want closing costs. You don't want to include that unless you've talked with the seller's agent, and again, there is room for it. Yeah. But ordinarily, if you can avoid asking for closing costs, and that includes the buyer's broker's commission, yeah, then that's something to really take seriously in a multiple offer situation. We're not saying that's the case for all situations at all.
Yeah, in the multiple offer scenario, I mean, it's confusing to everybody. But I think, again, your point is well made. The communication between the agents and understanding ideally what both parties are looking for. And certainly there's a lot of press out there right now that says that this market is going to fall flat on its face, that there's really kind of like this sluggishness as we go into the spring market. We're not finding that that's true. So I think you have to prepare yourself as best as you possibly can. We've talked a lot about the seller getting their properties ready for the marketplace. I think buyers have to do the same thing. And ideally, I think we have to prepare that this marketplace is going to be active, and you need to go in with the strongest offers you possibly can. That's what's really going to get the seller's attention when they see that offer, right?
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, we hope, again, that the time that you spend with us each week is valuable. And we're trying to bring you some up-to-date, kind of like the agents on the street, perspective of what's actually going in the marketplace, because there's a lot of dissenting reviews, if you will, right now about what's happening here in the Northern Virginia marketplace.
Yes, for sure. And if you live in the Northern Virginia area and you're thinking of selling your home, please call us. We would love to interview for you.
Yeah, we sure would. And you know, we will probably have the market update next week. We missed it this week because, again, just the intensity of what's going on this last week kind of proved that we needed to touch upon the subject. So we'll see you next week, hopefully with some great news.
Bye.
Bye-bye.